Update. My 35 male goddaughter, 15 female, recently lost both of her parents, and she began living with my wife, 32 female, and I. My wife is now saying this isn't what she signed up for, and is beginning to act cold and rude towards her, and it's making me rethink if I want children with her. Original story. I am 35 male. My goddaughter Elizabeth, 15 female, is the daughter of my late best friend and his wife, who both died in a car accident earlier this year. Elizabeth was also involved in the accident and miraculously survived. Elizabeth doesn't have any other family. Her mother and father were both only children, except for an extremely elderly grandmother who lives in a nursing home. My wife and I talked about it at length and decided to take Elizabeth in. My wife never lived with anyone other than her parents and significant others. We live in a large house, and Elizabeth has her own room and bathroom. But my wife has begun getting angry at Elizabeth for doing small things. For example, eating a Pop-Tart that was supposed to be hers. It wasn't the last in the box. My wife never said to anyone not to eat them, and my wife wasn't even the one who bought them. We went camping over the weekend and brought 2 tents, a larger one for Elizabeth and my wife and a smaller one for me. In the middle of the night, Elizabeth came over to my tent in tears. Apparently, she had had a bad dream and woken up loudly. Instead of asking her if she was alright or if she needed anything, she groaned loudly and said, "You were freaking kidding me. This is ridiculous now." I confronted my wife about it the next day, and she said that she was fed up with living with Elizabeth, and that this isn't what she signed up for. Elizabeth isn't a bad kid. She doesn't cause any trouble. She contributes to the house. She takes care of herself for the most part. She cooks dinner sometimes, she has a part-time job, and she cleans up after herself. She goes to her therapist 3 times a week with no complaints and is doing everything that is asked of her. I don't understand what she's doing that my wife is so fed up with. Elizabeth wasn't feeling well, so we cut the camping trip early. And when we returned home, my wife went out with her friends for the day. The next morning, I left for a business trip, and Elizabeth went to her cheer camp for 2 weeks. So I still need to speak to my wife about what happened and the general way she has been treating Elizabeth. Not just the outright things, the passive-aggressive things too. Like rolling her eyes or sighing when Elizabeth begins talking. But at this point, I'm not sure if I want kids with her anymore. We were trying, and then stopped because neither one of us wanted to have a baby in a pandemic. And then my best friend passed. I don't know if I'm wrong in judging how she would be as a mother to how she's treating Elizabeth. I just don't see how she can be so rude towards someone who has been through so much so recently. I don't know how to bring up that I don't want kids with her anymore, or just not bring it up until she starts talking about trying again. Now for the top advice before reading the update. Nah man, I'd be reconsidering the marriage, not just if you want kids with this lady. You and she talked about this. This girl is probably still getting over the trauma of losing both parents. And your wife goes, "I didn't sign up for this," and starts treating her badly? You need to bring it up like now. And wifey needs to be set straight, that's just wrong. My son's friend was being mistreated by his mother and stepdad at home. He had a different dad than the other kids, a dad who was in prison for life, and the other kids were treated well. 3 days before his 18th birthday, in December, his parents threw him out. From then until high school graduation, he lived with us. The first thing he did was to go into the bathroom and cleaned every square centimeter of it. I asked him why he did that, and he said he really appreciated being allowed to stay with us. I told him, "I don't expect you to clean unless I ask you to do it. I'd like you to help with chores, but no more than my son does. You can relax and enjoy yourself otherwise." He later told me that his mom and stepdad made him clean the house whenever he was home. As in, if they found anything wrong anywhere in the house at any time, he had to deal with it, including toilets overflowing and plumbing incidents, while the parents and his siblings played games and watched TV. He's a great kid. Joined the Marines out of high school, finished his time there, and is now a married father of 2 and a homeowner. He said living with us showed him a different way of life than he knew growing up, and he wanted to parent his kids as we parented ours. We just wanted to give the poor kid the freedom and support to be a kid while he was 1, and to give him a little TLC. He was emotionally defeated. And then the family moved away, and didn't tell him or provide a forwarding address or anything. He sobbed in my arms, certain he would never see them again. Now ask yourself, Opie, what kind of home do you want? One that treats your best friend's orphan child in need with expressed contempt, as an unwelcome intrusion in your lifestyle, or one that treats your best friend's orphan child as a vulnerable young human who deserves a little loving compassion and kindness, and is happy to do so. I would also suggest you consider how she might respond to a situation in which you were the vulnerable one whose needs disrupt her lifestyle. What happens if you develop a serious illness? Did you know that sometimes when people get sick, their partners abandon them? Like, even if they are given a terminal diagnosis in their most dire time of need. And you know what they say? I didn't sign up for this. Just consider what kind of life you want, for you and Elizabeth, and if your wife is interested in being part of it. It sounds like that's a no, but you know her. What do you think? While your wife didn't sign up for this, human compassion dictates not berating a grieving child for eating a pastry innocently. She wouldn't be that rude to a stranger, so why is she acting this way? Your wife needs therapy, and you need to protect your goddaughter raise up. Feeling worthless and unwanted is usually damaging, especially after the recent loss of her parents. Please have the direct conversation right now, and have your wife move out if she needs space to consider this. Has your wife ever shown signs of acting this way with anyone? It would be usually surprising to wake up one day with a dismissive and angry spouse if this is unexpected behavior. But the wife and Opie did have a long conversation and she agreed to it. So she in fact did sign up for this. Opie says she never lived with anyone but parents and partners. Maybe she's just used to getting her way, not having to accommodate another person, let alone a teen, let alone a grieving teen. Maybe she and Opie didn't know that she doesn't have that kind of capacity for empathy. Great reminder, the wife signed up for this. It's fine for her to struggle, but she has made a commitment to this child. Your wife's behavior is disgusting. Self-centered, unsupportive, neglectful, which is horrible, and just downright unloving. 10 out of 10 would not want kids with her, and would start paying attention to possibly narcissistic tendencies. I know this is harsh, but wow, I'd be infuriated in your position. I am incredibly angry. It's been something that I've been keeping an eye on for a while. Like I've said, there are a lot of small things she does that I'm not sure if Elizabeth notices or not, but this weekend she was just out of line. And now for the update. Hello everyone. Thanks for all the comments, supports, and advice in my previous post. I had a lot of people messaging me asking for an update once I spoke to my wife, which I did once I got home this morning. I began by bringing up that I've been getting concerned about her behavior towards Elizabeth. She flat out denied behaving any sort of way towards her. She says she treats Elizabeth fine, and that the incident that happened over the camping trip was blown way out of proportion by Elizabeth. I brought up how she often rolls her eyes or just walks out of the room, or goes on her phone in the middle of Elizabeth talking to us. She said that Elizabeth doesn't notice those things, and it's not like she's saying anything important anyway. I asked my wife what she meant when she said she hadn't signed up for this, and what she was fed up with. She said that she didn't realize all of the time and attention Elizabeth would take up. I asked her what she meant by that, since Elizabeth is largely self-sufficient, and having her live with us hasn't really affected either one of our personal or work schedules. We still go on date nights 2 nights a week. If I can't drive Elizabeth anywhere, she finds a friend's parent to do it. We still get personal alone time together at home. She wasn't giving me any actual answers, just getting defensive and saying teenagers are annoying. So I finally just flat out asked her what I could do to remedy the situation. And after a lot of beating around the bush, my wife finally said she didn't want to live with Elizabeth anymore. This floored me, and I asked her what her ideal situation would be. And she replied that we should ask around and see if any of her friends' parents want to take her until she turns 18. I don't know in what world she thought this would happen, but I told her absolutely not. After my wife and I mutually agreed to take Elizabeth in, I made her a promise that this would be her new home, that we could never replace her family, but we would do our best to make her feel safe and secure and happy, at a time where she was sure that she would never feel safe or secure or happy again. I am absolutely not going to uproot her from the place she's now begun to call home, to pawn her off to whoever would agree to take her. I have never seen my wife be cruel or heartless, but I suppose I've never really seen her be tested. I think she doesn't like that she can't control Elizabeth, whereas in the past, she's always lived with people she could control. My wife got incredibly angry over the fact that I wouldn't even entertain finding a new home for Elizabeth, as though she was some sort of misbehaving pet. She said I was choosing Elizabeth over her own comfort. I finally told her if she didn't want to live with Elizabeth anymore, that was fine. But since Elizabeth wasn't going to leave the house, She could. She stormed out. I assume she's going to stay with her parents. I don't know what's going to happen in the upcoming weeks and months in regards to our marriage, but I think we both need to reassess if our morals and values are still in line with each other's. Elizabeth doesn't come home until next week, so I'll figure out what I'm going to tell her before then. I don't want her to think this is her fault. Thanks again, everyone. I hope I included everything. If I forgot anything, I'll be happy to answer any remaining questions. Have a great night. I would suggest reaching out to a counselor before your goddaughter returns to get some insight into how best to handle the communication with your goddaughter. I'm not sure there's much you can do about your wife. There's a word for people who have to have the world revolve around them. That's a great idea. Thank you. I think I will reach out to Elizabeth's therapist and ask her how to best approach the situation. The world needs more people like you, OP. Kudos on being an upstanding guy and role modeling to those around you. Better to see the parenting differences now rather than later. Elizabeth and future children are so lucky to have you. This is an extremely poor indicator of your wife's future parenting skills. Time and attention? Children require nothing but time and attention. If she can't manage the time and attention for a 15-year-old, how will she deal with a baby? I disagree with the people praising you to the skies though, OP, because you are simply doing what a decent parent, which is what you are now, a foster parent, does. That is, put the needs of their child over the preferences of other independent adults. You're a decent parent, OP. Keep it up. The right choices are usually the hardest ones to make. Good on you for doing the right thing by your goddaughter even if it means a potential end to your marriage. You are a good man and a good father. You did the right thing. It may hurt now, but it would have been worse later. I suppose I've never really seen her be tested. I think she doesn't like that she can't control Elizabeth, whereas in the past she's always lived with people she could control. Are you included in the list of people she controls? Are you okay? Have you ever considered how this relationship serves you? Definitely see to it that her controlling/egotistical nature does not affect Elizabeth. But next steps include considering unpacking that very horrifying description of your wife with a counselor/therapist and see how this affected your own well-being and self-worth. Yeah, that was alarming to read. I hope you're okay, OP, and I'm proud of you for standing your ground and doing what's best for Elizabeth. Just imagine if you had kids with your wife. How she would handle a screaming baby, a disobedient toddler, a snarky preteen, a rebellious teenager. Children are not things to be controlled, but humans to be encouraged to grow and become functioning, independent members of society. A controlling parent is just as bad as a friend parent who refuses to discipline their child. I wouldn't want to have children with a woman like your wife. It would be 18 years of hell for both you and the kid. Last story is titled, My 29 female, husband 29 male, got a tattoo of my face without telling me. I wish this was a joke. For context, we've been together almost 4 years and married for a little over a year. I'm currently out of the country visiting a close friend when he sent me a video of him and our cats where he suddenly kept showing me something on his thigh. I asked what it was, and we video chatted so he could reveal it. It was a tattoo of my face. He had asked me last week what my favorite picture of myself was, so I sent one to him. I asked why, but he just said he was curious. My birthday and our anniversary are coming up, so I thought it maybe had something to do with that. But no, it was for the tattoo. I hate it and couldn't hide it on my face. I kept asking if it was fake and if it was a prank. But no, he insisted it was real, and it definitely looked real. The art itself wasn't very good either. You could tell I didn't like it, and I was honest with him, that I didn't like it. Don't usually like tattoos of people's faces, and that I was in shock right now because this was so unexpected. I asked him why he didn't tell me about this. He said he wanted it to be a surprise. So I told him, how is this an acceptable surprise? He just said he loves me so much and wanted to put that love on his body. I told him that I felt like this was something we should have talked about since it's my face, and that there were other ways he could have represented his love, and that I just didn't understand how he went through with us without telling me. He was dumbfounded and crushed that I didn't like it, which made me feel awful because I could tell he was holding back tears. I think it hit a little extra hard since it's his first and only tattoo, and we've been talking about his different tattoos ideas since we first met. I ended a video chat by telling him I needed to process this, and let's rest and chat tomorrow. I'm really upset at this. I'd honestly find it embarrassing. I'm at a loss of what to do next. But I'm also upset I crushed him by not liking it. And I won't be home for another 2 weeks for us to have a conversation in person. He's always been a bit impulsive, but it's never been ridiculous like this. I literally cannot imagine looking at my face on his leg forever. Now for the top advice. Number 1 rule of tattoo: never get anything to do with your significant other. Bad luck, and it's kinda tacky if you ask me. Don't do it with your BFF either. It's almost certainly a sign of impending doom. Source: I have a BFF tattoo with someone I'm no longer friends with. I've gotten several tattoos that represented people in my life, but fortunately I had foresight to only choose designs that are significant to me as an individual as well. Some of the people who I got tattoos for aren't in my life anymore, but I still love the tattoos. To be fair, he never said he wanted it to be an acceptable surprise. I am the owner of a regretful tattoo as well. A scantily clad pinup girl looks great on the shoulder blade of a 21-year-old U.S. Marine infantryman, but a bit out of place on a married 35-year-old father of 2 at a church pool party. I am in the middle of getting mine removed completely. It's a little painful, but it hurts the wallet more. I would suggest having a conversation about getting it lightened to a point that it could be covered up. Work with a tattoo artist to design a cover-up together that represents your relationship. It will need to heal completely before the laser treatments can start, and it will take multiple treatments. r/tattoo removal is a great resource for learning about the removal process. I like tattoos, but I've never seen one of a person's face that didn't remind me of Chucky or his bride. Unfortunately, his tattoo is there to stay, so I don't know how you fix this. There are literally 5,382 shows on TV right now called some variation of fixing tattoo disasters. Tattoos can be removed or covered up.